All right, guys, what is up? So we are gonna be talking about today the episode one of the new Halo series that's released by Paramount Plus. And instead of giving a little spiel, I'm just gonna go straight into it. It was not that good. Look, for a person like myself, I've played every single Halo game. I've watched all the shorts or like the Halo um kind of not movies, but like all the extra media that's come out about it. I haven't read all the books or anything like that. I think on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of Halo lore and understanding like what Halo is about, I would say I'm like a 6 or 7. 10 being like, oh, I could write a book, and one being like, I've heard of Halo but don't know anything about it. So I think I'm like a 6 or 7, right? That like I said, I played all the games. I watched a bunch of like Halo Legends and all that stuff. Watch a bunch of videos on YouTube about the lore that of people who like really go into like the backstory and stuff. So I that's kind of where my knowledge stems from. Anyways, enough about that. So up until the release of this um series, there's been a lot of news that come out about it, and one of the biggest things that I kind of found out was that the creators of this show didn't pretty much have never played the games, and they stayed away from the games, which really shows. Like, to be honest, like on just the first episode, like you can already clearly tell that they are just like the games are basically like a small inspiration for everything else, because there's so much about this first episode that makes arguably very little sense, and really arguably does a disservice to the Halo franchise. Like, first of all, in the first battle scenes, you see a bunch of elites come in. The elites look terrible. Like, I swear to God, like the special effects, I was just looking at, I'm like, what the heck? Like, these look like the aliens. Like, this looks like graphics coming from like episode one Star Wars. Like, that's how bad it looked. Like, it just looked terrible. I thought I was watching Gungans fight. Like I like it. The physiology of the elites, and like they didn't really show how brutal they were. Um, and the one thing that really bugged me was just the overall like logic in the first battle, because it made no sense. Because these elites, they bust through this door, and as they're just walking through, like uh you have this like a bunch of humans just shooting them, and their energy shields are blocking all the shots, and then nothing happens to them. And then so I'm like, okay, like how powerful are these shields? Because like in the game, like all the human weapons can penetrate, can eventually hurt these shields, and then it goes away. But the second chief and silver team now drops in, they're able to break through these shields, no problem, almost no problem, right? Like, they're it's basically now at this point is like more game related, where like chief has to unload like half a mag into an elite in order to break down the shield. And I'm like, okay, now it's more game like, but it's still kind of awkward, like, because like how come these civilian weapons can do nothing, but then somehow UNSC weapons are somehow just that much stronger, even though some of the other Spartans are just using pistols. So I'm like, okay, well, these guns, like, they're not special to Spartans. It's not like only Spartans use these weapons. All these weapons are used by regular UNSC troops. So why is there such a huge like discrepancy in terms of the just the firepower, and like how come these civilians, why are they using weapons that are like 1,000 years old? Because technically, I think the year is like 3552 or something like that. So yeah, over 1,000 years old. Like, they're using AKs, and I'm like, what the heck? Like, why do they have AKs? The even the Gatling gun, or the miniguns that Chief is using right now in this clip, like, they weren't doing jack to these elites, but if a Spartan was using it, there was no problem. And like, so the logic and the physics behind this just made like zero sense to me. So I don't know what the deal with that was. Um, and then like we start going into kind of the story and the lore, um, and where basically the Covenant are now on this other colony world called Madrigal, and they find a an artifact that from for the Forerunner. So they, they want to use this for whatever reason. They're trying to recover these artifacts, because the Covenant has a human that's working with them. And if you don't know much about Halo lore, the humans are the only people that can use Forerunner technology, because back a long time ago, the Forerunners chose humans as like the I guess like they're like the chosen people. Was it Forerunners, or was it the people before, right before them, that eventually became the Flood? One or the other way. This all the technology can only be used by humans because like they're like the chosen race or whatever. Anyway, so looking for this technology, Chief interacts with it, and it somehow gives him back memories of his childhood, which according to, as far as I know from Halo lore, like, these Spartans weren't erased. Like, their childhood memories weren't erased. I mean, sure, they were conscripted into the UNSC at a very young age, but they still had memories of like who they were as children. So I don't know why they're going with this route of like, oh yeah, we erase the memories of like of these Spartans, so that way they're like 110% obedient. I don't know what the deal is. Um, so that was like really odd in terms of like how they do a little bit different from the games. And I would say the ultimate faux pas, I guess, in all of this at the end of the day is the fact that they reveal Chief's face. So if there's one thing um about Halo, is the fact that no one knows what the Chief looks like, right? Like from since Halo 1 to today, no one knows what Chief looks like under this helmet. And while we know like the rest of the teams and the rest of the Spartans, because they've all removed their helmets at one point or another, we have no clue what Chief looks like. People have tried to like uh kind of work around it by like doing kind of cutting into kind of glitching into the suit and saying, oh, this is what Chief looks like. But they never actually revealed what he looks like. But like within the first episode, they remove his helmet and we're revealed with Pablo Schreiber, who plays Master Chief, who does, I think he does a pretty decent job of like playing Master Chief so far. Like we'll see how that goes in the rest. But I don't know if this was like a creative choice or is it more of a contract type of choice where it's like, oh, Pablo's like, well, I don't want my face to be hidden like 90% of the time or 100% of the time. It's like, I get it that like no one knows what Master Chief looks like, but my face has to be out there so that people know who I am. Maybe they wrote it into the contract as like his face has to be shown. And so they wrote that in. I don't know if that was the case, or maybe, the people who created the series like, went a different direction. It's like, let's just show Master Chief face in the first episode. And no offense to Pablo Schreiber, but like, I think he's a good actor. He was great in Den of Thieves. He was great in 13 Hours, but I don't know, like, now his face will forever be associated with Master Chief. Like he is Master Chief now, like the same way, Keanu Reeves, like he is Neo, he is John Wick. Um, in a lot of ways, well, I guess like maybe in the 90s, Sylvester Stallone, he is Judge Dredd. No, now it's Carl Urban. But with Carl Urban, I can't say his name. He never showed his face in Dredd. He never he kept his helmet on. That was one thing with Judge Dredd. Like he never removed his helmet. So, he stayed true to the character, whereas here it's like completely 180, like did not stay true to the character at all. So I don't know how I feel about that overall. It's a little I mean, I don't hate the fact that they remove the helmet, but at the same time, it's like, dude, you're doing it kind of quick. Like, at least wait till these, end of the series and be like, okay, now I'm gonna take off my helmet. So, um, but so those are all the negatives I feel like I can think about this. The good, okay, so right off the bat, we get like a crazy huge action scene, which is dope action scene. You see the Spartans do their thing. They pretty much, between 4 Spartans, they take out like an entire like platoon of elites, which is also kind of weird because they don't have any grunts, they didn't have any jackals or anything with them, only elites. I'm like, all right, did they not have the budget to like create grunts and jackals and stuff? Like, what's the deal? No hunters. I think that would have been tight if a hunter came in and was just like, destroying the place. And silver team, not blue team, silver team had to combine forces and become super Spartan. I don't know. I'm just kidding. But like basically they would have to kill off the hunter, but that didn't happen. But it was still a pretty fun scene where you see a lot of the classic like of how they fight, or the classic scenes of how Spartans fight versus elites. The size difference, those are great. And I would say how they kind of break into the story, and it's clearly set in a time where like the humans are still kind of discovering the war between covenants and humans, because it's just breaking out. This colony in Madrigal, like they think this propaganda done by the UNSC in terms of like, oh, we're fighting this alien race. They're like, no, we're not. But then until they see them, it's like, holy crap, they're real. So it's kind of like in between the Covenant War and the whatever the war they were in between the UNSC and the colonies right before that. So it's kind of like set in that time. So basically we haven't gotten to Reach yet. So that means there's Spartan 3s in this world, or at least they're supposed to be, until they all get wiped out eventually. I don't know if all 4 of Silver Team. I mean, we know Master Chief is Spartan 2. I'm not sure if the other 3 Spartans are also Spartan 2s. They look like they are, but we never know. I think at least in the Halo lore, Blue Team is the last 4 Spartan 2s in the galaxy, as far as I know. I think there might be a few more. Oh no, wait. There's also one other team, I think, that's still, I think Red Team is still around. That might be coming in Halo Infinite, so I don't know. So that might be a thing too, but there's not a whole lot of Spartan 2s left anyways. That's the point. So there could be Spartan 3s. Not sure if they're going to go into Spartan 4, maybe like if this thing gets renewed, maybe in season 3 or 4 or something like that. So don't know how much they're going to go into or follow the overall Halo lore, because they're going to stick with whatever they got now. Yeah, overall, I'm not impressed. Like with the first episode, I'm just not impressed, and I don't know what's going to happen in the next few episodes. I'm not gonna hold my breath and think like it's just gonna keep getting better, because even Rotten Tomato, they got a 57 from the critics and a 68 from the audience. So it seems like this show is not really for Halo fans. It's really more for trying to get like new Halo fans, like people who don't know anything about Halo. I'll try watching the episode again just to like kind of refresh, or like just dig more into it, see if I can catch anything I missed the first time. But overall, like I don't really have a lot of high hopes for the rest of the TV show, to be honest. And I really was like looking forward to this sucker coming out, because I love Halo. I played Halo Infinite. I played all the games. I love Halo. So I really hope that this show doesn't suck. So, but anyways, that's just my take on it. Let me know what you guys think about the show. Like, did you like it? Did you dislike it? Please leave it below in the comments, and yeah, we'll talk about it together. Thanks, guys.